The Chicago Bears are not done yet looking to improve their defensive line. So everyone freaking out that Chicago and Ryan Poles aren't going to pick someone up, he pretty much hinted that he will be doing that. And there are three guys I think the Chicago Bears could take thanks to ties with everybody on the roster in some way. Justin Houston, Frank Clark, and Chase Young. I'm going to break down all three guys, what they may cost, and who I prefer the Chicago Bears to sign. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Rohde. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Before I jump into it, please make sure to hit the like button on this video. Put your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, if you please could, hit the subscribe button. So let's jump into Justin Houston. Shout out to my man, Swifty Sports Network, who went over Justin yesterday. I watched the video. I was like, man, I also was thinking this guy, but the more Swifty talked about it, I actually enjoyed it. So shout out to him for leading off with this first guy. I actually texted him and said, yes, please. And he was like, absolutely, I would love him too. So Justin Houston has ties to both Coach Eberflus and Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles was in the front office while he played for the Chiefs, and Flus had him on the roster when he was the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. He was the NFL sack leader when in Kansas City in 2014 with 22 sacks in one season. He is a 6'3", 270-pound defensive lineman who's 34 years old and is big and fast. His career stats is that he has 115 and a half career sacks, 506 total tackles, 130 tackles for loss, and 182 quarterback hits. Last year for the Baltimore Ravens, at the age of 33, he had 9.5 sacks, 21 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 7 quarterback hits, and he was the absolute definition of do your job, and that was getting after the quarterback. Something the Chicago Bears truly need. Last year, he played on a one-year, $2.04 million contract with the Baltimore Ravens. I think his value went up a little bit, and also they know that Chicago needs the help at the defensive end position. So I think the Bears could sign him to a one-year, $3.5 million contract. I think that's very fair. Would want to make him play a little harder, or Poles with his great guru-ness of contracts could definitely make it cheaper and cap-friendly, but with a ton of incentives. Let's go to number 2, who Ryan Poles also has tied with, and that's Frank Clark. Ryan Poles was in Kansas City when they signed Clark to the massive 5-year, $104 million contract with the Chiefs. Poles also got to see him go to 3 consecutive Pro Bowls thanks to his fantastic play from 2019 to 2021. The 2-time Super Bowl champion is 6'3", 261 pounds, only 29 years old, will be 30 when the season begins, and is also a big, fast, and smart edge. He has 68 and a half career sacks, 263 total tackles, 67 tackles for loss, and 131 quarterback hits. Last year with Kansas City at 29 years old, he had 5 sacks for 39 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, and 13 quarterback hits. A little bit better stats than Justin Houston, not from the sack perspective, but everything else. But he is showing he can also get after the quarterback and make crucial tackles when needed at dual threat. He is also great against the run, and 5 sacks isn't bad either. I think they would sign him to a one-year, $5 million contract. Now, hear me out. He still isn't signed, has very close ties with Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles helped him get his big bag back in the day, and maybe Poles is like, hey, I helped you get the bag before. Why don't you come here, give a cap-friendly contract with a ton of incentives in it. Instant upgrade, either Justin Houston or Frank Clark from free agency. Now let's go to the trade of Chase Young. Bears Nation wants Chase Young really bad. I can see why from one side, also makes me a little nervous on the other side. There is a stretch, but there is also ties with the Bears. Chase Young and Justin Fields played at Ohio State together, and they were an absolute dominance of a team. They are also close friends, so I'm sure Justin Fields is going, hey, and pounding the table wanting Chase Young to come to Chicago. He is still young with a ton of potential, but the last 2 seasons have been injury-driven, and one of them is a major injury. He's a 6'5", 264-pound, 24-year-old, and he's a former Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2020 for the Washington Commanders. His career stats are 27 games with 9 career sacks, 75 total tackles, 13 tackles for loss, and 17 quarterback hits. The last 2 seasons have really been a wash due to injuries, one being a torn ACL. That makes me a little nervous. Derrick Rose flashback. And Washington knows he still has a ton of potential and is very young, so they might want a little bit more than what I'd be willing to give, but here is what I would give the Washington Commanders if it came down to it. I would give them a 2024 fourth, and that's it. If Chase Young were to have an unbelievable highlight or something like that, or Poles wants to override my decision and give a little bit more, fine. A 2025 6th-round pick. Don't give up too much for a guy who hasn't played the last 2 seasons, and we don't know who he's going to be again. He did show flashes when he came back in the 2 games last season, but that's 2 games, and he really didn't play all that much. So, out of everyone that I named today, Chase Young, Justin Houston and Frank Clark. I'm going with Justin Houston. At 33 years old, going to be 34, he is still producing like insanity, like he's still young. He's also going to be the cheapest option out of all three. You put him on a 1-year contract with a ton of incentives. He's going to bring that veteran leadership to the Chicago Bears defensive front. It is an upgrade from last year. And again, he's super cheap and he's proven. Also, Flus working with him is big. That means Alan Williams also worked with him. So overall, there's a lot of familiarity and he could be an instant impact. But put your thoughts in the comment section below about what you guys think. But with that, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody. We'll see you guys next time.